Hăīre, φίλε, and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at John chapter 6, verses 14 through 15. But first, last time in John chapter 6. Here is our rubric. Let's go ahead and get started. Hoi un anthropoi edontes ho epoiesen seimeon elegon hoti hutos estin alethos ho prophetes ho erkomenos eston kosmon. Jesus un nous hoti melusin erkestai kai harpadzen auton hina poiesosin basileia an koresen palin esto oros autos monos. So there is our text. So we take a look at verse 14. We see that our subject is identified immediately with the hoi anthropoi, the omicron iota for the subject, un meaning therefore, and then we have an edontes, a participle with the epsilon sigma identifying it as matching the subject for a nominative plural masculine, and this is oida. Is it oida? Yeah, I think it's oida, just to know. So the omicron is going to drop out for the stem, and then we have the aorist form, though present in meaning. So nominative plural masculine, I think present, active participle, and then hof with the aspiration mark there from hos, he, ho. It's going to be the relative pronoun. Since there's no sigma, it has to be neuter. We already have our subject with the men, and we don't even have our verb yet. So this has to be accusative singular. Neuter, that's not legible. There we go. And epoiesen, finally we have a verb epsilon nu. Correction. Anthropoi doesn't have its verb yet. Instead, with ho, we've entered a subordinate clause, which I should have said at the beginning, and epoiesen is referring to a different subject. In that case, it's going to be Jesus, epsilon nu being the third person singular, augmenting vowel at the beginning of the verb, eta sigma change to the stem of the verb, therefore it's aorist tense, active and indicative with Jesus as the subject, as we should know from the context. And then this wants to take a object, seimeon, omicron nu for accusative, or wait a second, step back again. Epoiesen doesn't want an object because it's already got ho as its object. So instead what I'm going to do, I'm going to put commas here to remind me, as much as anything else, seimeon instead is going to be the object of edontes, seeing a sign, ho, epoiesen, the ho referring to sign, accusative, singular, neuter, matching in number and gender, though not necessarily case in every instance with its relative pronoun. And then we finally get to the main verb, which anthropoi is doing. Elegon, augmenting vowel. There is no stem change, but we have omicron nu as the ending. We know then that with this present stem, augmenting vowel is going to make it imperfect, third person plural. Moving on, then we have a hoti introducing a direct statement in this case. So that, quote marks here, and we have hutos, our subject, demonstrative. This estin, from Amy, we don't need to parse it. Form should be clear. Alethos, note that we have the sigma, which then tells us that this adjective has turned into an adverb modifying our verb there, so adv. Ho prophetes, here is the predicate with estin, hutos estin ho prophetes, eta sigma for the first declension masculine, because of the article there, nominative, singular, noun. Ho erkomenos is describing what specifically about the prophet. So there have been a number of prophets, but they're speaking about a specific prophet. The one that Moses said, there will be a prophet like me who will come. So that's the one they're talking about here. Erkomenos, there's no change to the stem, and with the men we know we have a participle. Erkomai is already deponent. with the article, we know that this is acting, no, it's not going to be acting substantively. Instead, ho is just connecting it with prophetes, so that the two are united as a single thought. And then prepositional phrase, eis ton kosmon. 15 starts a new verse. Jesus is the wrong form anyway to be part of the prepositional phrase. So plus, accusative, singular, masculine. Why masculine? Because it's new in the article. That's the only option. It can be if it were neuter, there would be no new. Instead of just be tol kosmon. And then with verse 15, we have Jesus' response to this. Jesus is our subject. Un, another therefore. Nous, another participle. This is gnosko. And then I can't remember the future, but egnon would be the aorist. With omicron, upsilon, sigma. This is, I forget exactly why it forms like this, but we have the nominative, singular, masculine, aorist, active participle, knowing, but a different type of knowing than idontes, or idontes. That thinking about it again could be from horao opsamai, adon instead. Yeah, I think adon is the right one, because then the epsilon would have dropped out rather than omicron. But the two are related words, oida and adon. Anyway, knowing hoti, melusin, omicron, upsilon, sigma, iota, nu. Note that we have a contraction here, but the accent has stayed all the way at the end because the iota is short. So third person plural, because we've got men in the plural. And this is the present stem. There's been no change. There's no augmenting vowel, active, indicative. We're intending to, we're about to do an infinitive, which we have with erkestai, the middle passive infinitive form off of the present stem. We don't really need to parse it. Kai harpadzein, epsilon iota nu for present active infinitive, so matching erkestai, except that that's deponent. And the kai can only connect two of the same type of object, so it makes sense. But then both of these, but this one, not both of them, this one wants an object, which we find with auton, omicron, nu. Note the acute because of the accent on the hina. So accusative, singular, masculine referring to Jesus. And then hina is going to introduce a purpose clause. So they are intending to come and to seize for the purpose with a subjunctive omega there. This eta sigma tells us that we have a stem change, even though there's no augmenting vowel. We don't want an augmenting vowel as the verb is subjunctive in the subjunctive clause. Sin is still third person plural, so that they may make auton assumed again. Basileia, the alpha is going to be an accusative, singular, masculine, and you make one accusative into another accusative, but in this case, as I said, we're assuming another instance of auton. So then what does Jesus do? Anekoresen, eta sigma, augmenting vowel here. This verb is anakoreo, and it means to retire, to withdraw. Aorist tense, epsilon nu for the third person singular, still as Jesus and the subject. Pollen, adverb again. And then prepositional phrase, eis to oros. Autus is the wrong form to be part of the prepositional phrase, even though it's omicron sigma. This is a pronoun, whereas oros is a noun. This pronoun can't be modifying it in the way that an adjective would. Eis plus the accusative, singular, neuter, because in this case there is no nu with the article. But then what's going on with the autos monos? This is the nominative telling us the manner, even though we wouldn't call it a nominative of manner, but it's the manner in which he's going himself alone. So we do have our subject, but it's all the way at the end for this verb, even though we also have our subject all the way up there. Both of them together, it's an interesting sandwiching of the name, and then he stands alone. So what this is telling us is that the disciples aren't going with him, and the next 3 verses will explain what's going on with him while he is up in the mountains. But let's go ahead and take a look at this in its own context. Therefore the men, seeing the sign, which he did, began to say, or were saying, that this man is truly the prophet, the one coming into the world. for the world. Jesus, therefore, knowing that they intend to come and to seize him, both of these are progressive actions because the present tense, in order that they might make him king, this is a singular action because it's aorist, retired again into the mountain himself alone. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I hope taking a look at this has been helpful for you, and I hope that you have a very good day. Farewell.